If you have ever modded an arcade cabinet or built one from scratch, you've likely heard of Glen's Retro Show. Glen has built a number of arcade controls and replacement parts, and in today's video, we're going to build this USB connected arcade controller that you can hook up to a Raspberry Pi and play Discs of Tron and many other great arcade classics. I'm John, and welcome to Wagner's Tech Talk. This package arrived a little over a month ago from my buddy Glen Planamento. His YouTube channel is Glen's Retro Show. I'll place a link up above if you want to check out his site. Highly recommend it. Well, Glen briefly mentioned some time ago that he was going to send me a few of his new arcade products to check out. I bought nearly every product he's ever released. The only exception is his steering wheel and what we find here, which he so kindly sent to me to check out. This is his new multicolored arcade trackball, which we'll take a closer look at in a future video when I upgrade my OpenCade control panel from a 3B Plus to a Raspberry Pi 4. Everything else we'll be using to build a console that can play not only Tron, but also the classic Discs of Tron, which up until now has been extremely difficult to play due to the unique controls needed for the game, such as this spinner. I'll go ahead and open the box so I can show you what I mean. First off, we have a thank you for your purchase card that says Game On, and you betcha buddy, we'll be doing that very shortly. In the box, we also have a USB cable with a connector on the end. And over here, we have the spinner knob for the push-pull spinner, which I'll get to in just a moment. The package also includes two buttons, a red and a black one. I'll probably wind up adding these to the control panel a little bit later. What makes this spinner unique and perfect for Discs of Tron is that it allows you to push down as well as spin and of course pull up on it. And all you have to do is just connect up a single cable to the back and plug it in over USB to your device. This is necessary in the later levels of Discs of Tron when you need to raise or lower the cursor. And next we'll take a look at the DOT Tron stick. And what do I mean by DOT? Of course, Discs of Tron. This controller is rather unique in that not only does it have a trigger button to launch the disc or shoot, but a deflector button at the top, which is used to deflect the incoming discs from your opponent. Another cool feature that we'll see in just a few moments is that the flight stick itself lights up. There are three pairs of wires we'll need to connect up to our encoder. The double blue wires is for the deflector or top buttons, the red and black to power the LEDs, and the blue and white is needed for the trigger button. What you see here is a 3D printed OpenCade console that allows you to easily mix and match the panels however you want. You can use just a single box or go all out and build a massive panel like this one. This unit has a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus built in, and I'm going to soon upgrade it with this Raspberry Pi 4. However, our focus in this video will be to upgrade the Tron console with the new controls. Back in November of 2019, I released a video that showed how to make this 3D printed Tron console. I will be replacing the stick and spinner with a new push-pull spinner and the DOT Flightstick. However, in the original video, I went into a little bit more detail about the 3D print and assembly. If you need some assistance with that, I'll put a link up above. But first, we'll need a slightly redesigned control panel to replace the larger spinner with the push-pull spinner. And here we go. Wasn't that quick? I'll place links down below for this new panel, and of course, all the other models have been freely available on my website and Thingiverse for several years. We'll go ahead and install the push-pull spinner. Basically, it just slides in, and then you screw this nut on top of it. Go ahead and get it good and tight, because you don't want it moving around when you're pushing and pulling on the spinner. Next, we'll install the included knob for the spinner, which is simply a matter of sliding it over the shaft and tighten the screw with the included Allen wrench. I'll speed through this next section. At this point, I simply need to swap the base for the Tron stick, as well as the encoder and wires over to the new panel. This is simply a matter of unscrewing each from one panel and reinstalling to the new one. Now that everything's been moved to the new panel, I can install the DOT Flightstick. I'll feed the 3 pairs of wires through the top, install the shaft for the stick, and lock it into place by pushing it in and twisting. The encoder that I'm using already had a connector for the trigger button, so I'll go ahead and connect that. However, I did need to split the ground wire into 2 separate wires. For that, I split the ground wire going to the LEDs using a jumper wire with a pin on one end and used electrical tape so it doesn't fall out of the connector. I then took the other ground wire and the gray wire from the encoder and connected that to the deflector connector, which is the 2 blue wires. Again, added electrical tape to keep the wires from falling out of the connector, and this is the result. You can see the 2 ground wires on the left, where I crimped a connector to a jumper wire, so I didn't have to cut any of the connectors off the encoder wires. And the gray encoder wire is for the deflector button. I also want to mention I'm reusing this small USB hub to connect the encoder and the push-pull spinner to a single USB output cable. Now we're ready to close up the enclosure. Optionally, you could add 2 buttons to the base if you want. There are 2 holes at the front to support them if needed. However, I'm just going to secure the panel with the 4 M3 screws and nuts, and we'll move on to the software aspect of this build. Now we're going to install RetroPie to a micro SD card using Raspberry Pi Imager, linked down below if needed. Go ahead and insert the micro SD card, launch Pi Imager, then move down to where it says Emulation and Game OS. Go ahead and select this option, and from there you want to select RetroPie. And if we scroll down towards the bottom, we'll see Raspberry Pi 4 and 400. Select Choose Storage and select your micro SD card where you want to install RetroPie. At this point, click the right button and we'll be prompted if we want to proceed, and yeah man, let's go for it. Once written, you'll see this dialog. Simply click the Continue button and close out of the Raspberry Pi Imager. We'll take that micro SD that we just imaged and install it into this DeskPi Lite case, which happened to arrive during the filming of this video. You'll see a full review of it on this channel very soon. I'll go ahead and plug in the HDMI cable and the power cable, and go ahead and turn on the Raspberry Pi 4. It'll resize the micro SD and boot in Emulation Station. For the initial setup, you'll need a keyboard, so I'm going to use this wireless dongle that goes with this handy keyboard and game controller combo. That's right, if you flip the switch, boom, you got a controller on the other side. If you head on over to wagnerstechtalk.com/rpi4gaming, you'll find a guide and video which will assist you with the Wi-Fi and controller setup if you need more details. To set up our control panel within RetroPie, I'm going to use the Advanced MAME emulator. However, it's not pre-installed for you within RetroPie, so we'll do that now. We'll take the RetroPie option and go to RetroPie Setup. From there, select Manage Packages, and then Manage Optional Packages, and select ADV MAME or Advanced MAME. When prompted, select Install from a pre-compiled binary, and yes. Then simply back out. Next, we'll copy a few games. We'll access the share on the Pi by typing \\RetroPie and press Enter. And we'll navigate to the ROM subfolder. Just double click and go down to where it says MAME-ADV MAME. Double click there. And on the left hand side, I'll select all the games that I want to copy and drag and drop them into the folder. At this point, we're ready to try our controller out. I'll plug it in, and yes, it lights up. That's always good. I'll use the gamepad side of the Re controller and go ahead and move down to the Configure Input option so we can go ahead and map the buttons to Emulation Station for our new controller. So I just go through the normal routine. Great. And we'll do the same for the A and B. I did use the Re controller to move down to the A and B. And when we scroll all the way down to the bottom, it's going to say Hotkey Enable. I'm going to go ahead and say OK, and then say No to this option, since I don't actually have a hotkey for this new controller. although you could add an additional panel and add more buttons if you wish. I'll go ahead and start up the game, and we'll take our keyboard, switch it over to keyboard mode, and hit the Tab key, which will bring up the configuration screen in Advanced Main, and move down to Input This Game. And now I can map all the buttons that we're going to be using with this controller. For example, I can go to player 1 up, press enter, move up on the stick, and I can repeat that for all the other buttons, such as the left, the right, and our fire button, and our deflector button, and the down and up position on the push-pull spinner. So everything is mapped, and I'm going to go to other controls and go ahead and map a select and start as well on the keyboard. Now we'll get back to our game and try it out. It is so cool being able to play Discs of Tron. This is a game I have not played in quite a long time because simply it's impossible without the right controls, and now we have them. Arcade 1UP apparently really likes Glen's products too. After all, it's pretty clear they used his design in the full-size Tron cabinet, as Glen's stick is a drop-in replacement. At this level, this is where I start getting out. I've been practicing, but I'm nowhere near as good as the master. Definitely check out Glen's Retro Show if you want to see some of the more advanced levels of the game. You're not going to see it here, folks. Sorry. Not yet. I need more practice. One game I played in the early 80s, which had a flight stick that was similar to that of Tron, was Satan's Hollow. I remember walking down to a newsstand not far from where my parents worked and sunk a ton of quarters into this game. Let's play a little bit of it. Once you collect enough bridge pieces, you can pass over the lava and enter a bonus stage. Or lose a life like I just did. And of course, we got to play a little bit of the original Tron arcade game, so let's check it out. Once again, Glen hits it out of the park with his push-pull spinner and the DOT Flightstick. The controls are very responsive, and if you're looking to build a custom arcade cabinet, or upgrade your Arcade 1UP Tron controls, or from what I read, even upgrade your AtGames Legends Ultimate 1.0 or 1.1 cabinet, or build a single-purpose dot panel as shown in this video, I highly recommend Glen's products. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, please click the like button. If you'd like to see more content like this in the future, please click the subscribe button. And with that, I will talk to you very soon.